Xavier de Sousa. I'd also like to thank all the commissioned artists for their inspirational work. And if you've not already had a look at the online exhibition, I urge you to check it out on our website. Thanks very much for joining us, and I'll hand over to Zofia.
Thanks, Dan. So it's great. I'm Zofia, and I work at the People's History Museum. I'm one of the programme officers there, and I'm currently leading on our programme of migration. And for those of you who don't know us, the People's History Museum is the National Museum of Democracy, and we're based in Manchester city centre. So our programme of migration has got a series of events which are called Radical Dates, and this event today forms part of one of them. So it's really great to be working with Journeys Festival again to bring you this Q&A with the freedom of movement artists. I'm looking forward to hearing the discussion, and I'll hand you over to Mandla to get us started.
Hi everyone, my name's Mandla, and I am a writer, performer and occasional curator, and it's been just so powerful and urgent to meet all the artists in the exhibition and watch their ideas and anger and rage come to life. And just want to say a massive thanks to Dan at Artreach, who's just been a massive fangirl of my work for like the past year and a half. And thank you for creating space for me to be angry and make work that calls into question the various systems in place that affects migrants in the UK and beyond. So I'm really happy to be here and to share all the work that the artists have been creating over the past few months in lockdown. Yeah, and over to Xavier.
Thanks, Mandla. Welcome everyone. My name is Xavier de Sousa. I'm a curator and performance maker, and it's a total privilege to be here today. Thank you, first of all, to Mandla, and huge congratulations to you for such a great exhibition, and thanks for inviting me to share this conversation, especially when the work that is now live and accessible to all is of such high standard of artistic quality. And your work and vision as both an artist and a curator continues to be of impeccable quality and beauty in the cultural sector. So thank you. Over the past few weeks, diving into these works has been an incredible experience. For the pieces created by the artists here tonight explore quite deep, nuanced topics and experiment with form in ways that are not only accessible to us all, but tackle subject matters that are deeply personal and unique in their optics, yet anyone can understand and find points of relation to them. In this conversation, we will focus on the artist's own work and experiences, but also welcome a focus on the larger context of where the artworks and artistic intentions behind them come from. We will start with each artist introducing themselves and the work that they are presenting as part of this exhibition. Then we will go into questions and discussions between us all, followed by a few minutes of questions from the audience. I will do my best to keep to time, and we'll aim to be all wrapped up and putting our pajamas on by 9:30, 9:45 the latest. Although I'm Portuguese, so don't quote me on it. Before we start, I would just like to add some notes. First is that we are open to any questions from the audiences, like Dan said earlier, and if you have any, please write them on the comment sections of the Facebook or YouTube channels that you are watching from. The team will collect them, and I'll read the ones that I can get to later on in the conversation. The next note is for everyone here, both the artists and the audiences. This is a space of kindness, comradeship, and respect. And in that spirit, everyone here is welcome to interact with an assumption of goodwill, even when someone is saying something you might disagree with. If we disagree, we do it with kindness, comradeship, and respect for each other. The last note, and I hope you will indulge me a little bit on this, is a quote from a great activist, hero, and writer, David Gober, who recently passed away, but whose words will hopefully resonate and allow us to kick off this conversation in the right way. Hopelessness isn't natural. It needs to be produced. To understand this, we have to see the construction of a vast bureaucratic apparatus that creates and maintains hopelessness. At the root of this machine, its global leaders' obsessions with ensuring that social movements do not appear to grow or flourish. Maintaining this illusion requires armies, prisons, police, and private security firms to create a pervasive climate of fear, jingoism, conformity, and despair. They exist to share and pulverize the human imagination and condition, to destroy our ability to envision an alternative future. What remains then is what we are able to promise to one another directly, without the mediation of economical and political bureaucracies. The revolution begins by asking what sorts of promises do we make to one another, and how, by making them, do we begin to make another world. So with that in mind, we will start the artist section with a video by artist Braham Galamdar. Sorry, I'm going to do all my best to pronounce properly this evening, but do allow me some mess ups, I'm afraid. Who unfortunately couldn't be here with us today, but would like to send a message. And later on, Morteza, who is Praham's collaborator and is running a little bit late, will also join us for this discussion.
My name is Parham Galamdar, and I'm so happy to participate in this year's Journeys Festival International. And I'm a painter, animator, researcher based in Manchester. I'm studying my MA painting at Manchester School of Art. And because of the lockdown and the current disruptions going on, I didn't have access to studios. So I switched to digital media, and I started to produce art digitally. And what I produced this year for the festival was a collaboration with Morteza Khaleghi, who's based in Italy, and we collaborated as part of the Freedom of Movement program. So we were commissioned to work together on a film that originally Morteza Khaleghi was thinking of to make. And so Morteza went to Samos Island and he filmed the asylum camps there. And he came up also with some stories and writings and narrations to put together with the footages. And what I did was that I tried to take a different approach to storytelling and edit them and do some montage and try to kind of change the methods of storytelling in narrating the things happening on the island. So the footages Morteza provided were all depicting some sort of well, to me, what I saw, it was depicting some situations of suspense. And a situation of suspense is, suspense is basically an art of, promising. Suspense is, what suspense does is that it tells you that there's something else, some conclusion around the corner, and if you keep following the story, I promise to reveal that conclusion to you. However, living in an asylum camp and constantly waiting for some sort of results, some sort of decision made about you by the authorities, it's promise after promise after promise, and promises are constantly broken, which produces frustration and disappointment. So I thought of that situation, and I thought, how could I actually, communicate that feeling of frustration in the film?
Thank you very much. We will hear from Morteza a little bit later on, roughly around 9 o'clock. In the meantime, let's go over to Pankaj Tiwari, please.
Hello, my name is Pankaj. I'm a theatre maker and curator from Balrampur district of India. Balrampur district comes in eastern Uttar Pradesh, which is very close to Indo-Nepal border. Currently, I'm part of Das Theatre in Amsterdam, which I started from last year. During Corona, in India, India went on an extreme lockdown, and lot of migrant workers were walking back home because everything was shut, and they didn't have job, they didn't had place to sleep. While I was in Europe, I was thinking what I can do from here, and the work which was commissioned from Artreach was, and a lot of other collaborators, a lot of other supporters. I created called Art of Walking with my collaborator Abhishek Thapar, where we walked from Amsterdam to Calais in France. It was a 12-day walk, 348 kilometers, and yeah, this was a larger thing, and this was the response what we could do at the moment, and whatever resources we were able to generate from the work is now supporting 98 families. It started from this month till next 3 months. That's what the work did. Yeah, so it was called Art of Walking, and yeah, I think that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you. If you can go to Rosie and Taff, please.
Hi, I'm Taff.
I'm Rosie.
I am associate artist with SBC.
Yep, I'm artistic director of SBC, or Stand Up Encountered Theatre.
And yeah, we made Where We Are, which is basically a continuation of my personal story and journey through the Home Office migration. And yeah, it's just me basically trying to tell you what I went through and trying to let you see a glimpse of everything that I kind of experienced and the journey from where it started and to where we are now. Yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah, that definitely felt like something with this project we really needed to do. Was we had toured a show that we'd started making at the start of 2017. We toured it in 2018 about the situation that Taff was going through. And just because the show finishes doesn't mean those stories finish. And it was really important for us to let audiences know what is still happening. And even when mistakes are accepted as mistakes, it doesn't change people's situations, even worse in a pandemic. And as someone who's been very lucky to get to work with Taff for the last 4 years, I want to say thank you for being really generous all the time, because this is what we need out there, and you're doing it.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for your amazing work. Can we then go to Betul, please?
Hello, everyone. My name is Betül Aksu. I'm an artist based in London, originally from Izmir, Turkey. I've been living in London for 5 years now on a student visa. And in my works, I use language as an art material, as in using text as visual objects or speech as an auditory signal to make art. And for Journeys Festival International this year, I made a short film called Their Sound Surprisingly. And it's a film that celebrates the notion of hope as a consequence of living home. And I made it during the lockdown. It was quite a fun process because I revisited my archives from the last 7 years spent abroad, mostly in Italy, Germany, and in the UK, last 5 years. And I matched unconnected sounds and videos to create a fictitious narrative that are all eventually rooted in lived experiences. And while doing that, once more, I realized what freedom of movement is for me. It is to have a space where I can perform my ideas. And I want to thank Mandla and the rest of the team again for creating that space for us where we can perform our ideas without any boundaries. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lastly, but never the least, can we go to Bazad?
Hi everyone, I am Bazad. I'm a performer and visual artist, performer maker based in Germany, originally from Syria. Working with my body, and that was a great journey to be part also in the festival and sharing my experience during lockdown with you and some people. As performer, so immediately I go to my body and see what's going with my body during the lockdown and how I am far with the stage and I cannot people see me what I'm doing. So I started to filming and recording what I kept doing and then see myself throwing the camera. So normally doing that live, and that was for me to take it also position for the audience and to see myself, and that was totally different experience and great experience also can do. And it was also great to have the process sharing between me and Mandla and Batul all the time, and that was really as good journey to was the goal for the program also. So yeah, I'm so glad again, and so excited to be with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. That was fantastic to hear you all speaking about your own lives and your own journeys, both artistically and personally. I would like to just remind anyone watching at home to go and spend some time after this conversation, go and spend some time on the online exhibition, which is quite a special portal into a lot of stories. And I hope you get a little cup of tea and sit down and enjoy the ride. I would like to start this discussion, if you all allow me to kind of just preempt a couple of things. So it will revolve around 3 or 4 subjects, depending on how long we go for. And if it's okay to bring you in every now and then, I'll sometimes point some questions directly at some people, but please feel free to all interject and all contribute to it. The questions are open to everyone. Also, feel free to ask questions if you get lost or you don't understand certain questions. The first one is to kick us off a little bit. Maybe we can start with a conversation about the topic of the exhibition that you all responded to, freedom of movement, and with an interrogation point. What does freedom of movement mean? And I think some of you have already kind of touched on this in your introductions and in the work itself. I'd like to hear it from you a little bit, specifically on what does freedom and movement, the 2 words, mean to you in the context of your experiences, both as an artist and as people. And perhaps to kick us all off, we'll start with Bazad, whose work was very interesting in terms of physical understanding of movement, I suppose, and isolation.
Yeah, thank you. For me, actually, the starting there free and moving with my body. So when I started getting the lockdown, so I couldn't move out on my room and my house. So that was the first point starting. And then I see my neighbor and I see another people living in another side of the street. So we see each other, but we don't have connection. We don't moving. We don't go to street. So was the first point started to how I can see my body and going with my body with this situation. So for that, if you see miracle going to you see the perspective for the up, and then you see different spaces in the body. These spaces they moving, some kind free and not free, but they cannot connect it to each other. And that's with these questions coming like how even if you don't have, we can go into bigger context, say borders and countries and cities, but for me was more important starting from me myself and going doing his body like how these borders what's meaning for me, because borders you can be making it bigger and smaller, and the bigger smaller is coming from yourself as body, and then I told you as stage and room and different stuff. So that was my experience with these 2 words, and I tried to translate it in my with my mind to getting the image.
Nice. And it's quite indicative, I suppose, of notion of wanting to kind of break from that isolation, I suppose. Could you reflect a little bit on your own understanding of freedom within that context that you were in, and how does that influence your understanding of where you are now as a human?
Yeah, the freedom, even as if we take it in different contexts, I didn't get freedom since long time because I was come from Germany, so I'm from Syria, so in Syria we didn't get the freedom we have revolution and since long time. So then I came to Germany, I feel with the freedom, but even the freedom, so in like say small sections, I cannot travel everywhere with my passport what I have as a refugee, and and I can move just in Schengen area, and that's with my visa, but in different countries I cannot. So also that's what's hard for me. And even also with my projects, with these freedoms, was I feel more when cancelled everything, and I couldn't use my freedom to go to theaters, museums, all this stuff. So this actually is the freedom what we have even without the political or control, even couldn't use it, and that's what's so hard also. So you don't have also the freedom for doing your choose to meet somebody and doing somebody, because that was totally locked down, or even in yourselves. That was hard.
Yeah. Pankaj, can you give us a little bit of an insight into understanding of these two words, freedom and movement, as someone who came recently into Europe and kind of did a piece of work that was reflecting on back there and your family and other families who were going through other kind of restrictions of freedom and movement at the same time. So this duality of where you are at and kind of trying to represent people elsewhere, or where you come from, really.
Yeah, thanks, Xavier. Basically, during till the lockdown, I was not able to think even about freedom or about movement. I was too much busy. My agencies were just to survive somehow in the city. But I'm audible, right? So during till the lockdown, I was not able to think about freedom or movement or anything like that, because I was so much busy just to survive somehow in this city, which is so costly. But during lockdown, when I see a lot of things happening back home in India, and here I was framed as coming from a different country. You are even in artists, you have framed like we are migrant artists, and I come from a place which is eastern Uttar Pradesh, which is the hub of migrant labor because of poor education, poor health system. A lot of people migrate to big cities, even in India. So for me, it was also that I was not sure how to talk about those issues in this context, because my dream of Europe was that Europe is the best place. There is no problem at all. Like everybody have everything, and everybody have equal rights, and all those things. And then when I thought to how to put that work in this framework and started searching about the migrants issue in Europe, Calais in France pop up a lot. That a lot of people are just waiting to cross that channel of 33.3 kilometers, and for me it was like it was like that. What does it mean to not able to cross certain spaces just because of not having the privilege to be born in certain countries? And that was a point which was a connecting thing. So for me, the work which I created in the context here, like one is like I really, when everything is stopped, you cannot do anything, you cannot go to theater, going through body, like actually walking was something. But it was in this context that how also connecting what is happening back home in India in the European context of the issue of migration, which was really important. And so freedom of movement, like it is a space of like that thing was a space of possibilities and possibilities that we were walking 30 kilometers each days, and impossibility that we cannot cross that border because we don't have certain papers. And so that's what it was freedom, but at the same spot it was not at all. We cannot do that. I hope.
Yeah, thank you very much. I would just like to bring in Taf, please, and if you could share a little bit your understanding, kind of through the experiences that you went through, your understanding of freedom and movement, and perhaps maybe another provocation to you as well. Has your notion of freedom of movement changed since your experiences?
Definitely. I think for the first question, my sort of idea of freedom and movement, on the surface, you'd look at me and you'd say, I've got everything, I've got freedom, I've got movement. But when you really dig deep into it and you sort of learn my story and hear about my personal journey, I really didn't have anything really. my freedom in the sense of movement, my freedom in the sense of sort of having the choice of, you know, like little things of finishing university, or going on holiday, or, you know, leaving the country, or having the choice to do those mundane things. You know, all of that was stripped from me, and still is. So yeah, when on the surface it seems like everything is fine, but when you really strip it back, like, I really didn't have anything. So freedom and movement, I didn't have a choice of either. And it wasn't just, you know, physically, it was also mentally. Mentally, I was trapped within my own like frame of mind. I was like really isolated and alone, and part of that was because of those physical barriers that were set for me. So yeah, so before, I was probably just like every other person. I thought, yeah, I've got it all, I've got everything. And then through that process and through that journey, my understanding and my idea of freedom and movement have completely changed to the point where, you know, like I said, for me and for a lot of people who've been through my journey, or experienced something similar, the idea of freedom and movement is just an idea. It's not really something that we're able to truly obtain. I hope that answered the question.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And perhaps we'll bring in Mandla here a little bit, and kind of touching on what everyone's been saying so far. How has that impacted your, and working with these artists as well at the same time, how has that impacted your understandings of these two words, or these two concepts, I suppose?
So I suppose freedom of movement isn't really something that I have had in my adult life or my life as a child, because when we got to this country, I just haven't been able to travel ever since. And even though I sound like I'm British, I'm definitely not. And I think being able to talk to these artists was, for me, it created a space where I could not be ashamed of my own issues with like status and right to travel. And like, I remember in January, I was trying to get a biometric residence permit, and then I wasn't able to, and I just remember feeling a lot of shame about that, and just not wanting, and not even being able to get in touch with the people who I was meant to be traveling to, and just being like, oh God. And I think being part of the exhibition and the conversations with the artists sort of cleared away a lot of that shame for me, because I think that like when something's happening to you, it's quite easy to like shame yourself and to feel all these feelings, but then when you hear about a similar experience happening to someone else, you're like, that is unacceptable, this is not okay, how is this happening in this day, in this time? And there's a sort of collective rage there, I think, and it's been, yeah, just like a whole process of healing for me, actually, to just not be around artists who are British and Western and have like all the privileges in the world, and to kind of just be like, okay, like this is my story, but also this isn't just my story, this is something that affects so many different people in so many different ways, but unless it's happening to you, you're actually not going to be very aware of it, and even think twice about asking your friend to go on a holiday with you or whatever. So I think, yeah, for me, there's just been a whole processing and healing through the conversations that I've been able to have with the artists and all the works that everyone's created. Yeah, I don't know.
No, that's great. Thank you so much. And can I bring Vitul in, please? And just to kind of reflect on these two words, freedom and movement, freedom and
Yeah.
and how has your opinion changed of those words, or how were they were before?
Yeah, I think for me, freedom and movement as concepts, they have been always interrelated, because when my freedom was restricted, my movement was restricted as well. So I think I've always seen them interrelated from the very beginning. But as I moved from a country to the other, there were different definitions added to those concepts based on the laws in that country. So back home in Turkey, I had my Turkish passport, which meant I could work in any position that I wanted to. So I wasn't restricted work-wise, but I was restricted by the political climate in the country. And then when I moved to Italy, I could only do work placement, for example. Then I was restricted by the jobs that I could do. And then coming back to moving to the UK, then I had to add new definitions below freedom and movement. For example, now I remain in the UK. I don't live in the UK, and I try to extend my remain situation in the UK. So kind of like I see it kind of the opposite of what Basat said. He said the freedom for him starts from the body, but I feel like for me, it starts from my passport first. And wherever it goes, wherever I go, wherever I can enter, it kind of redefines it based on the rules in that country.
Nice. Is there anyone else's experience of this similar to Betul and this relationship between what freedom is? Is it a passport, or is it your own, or you're on your own body?
If allow, I can just share something very short. Yes, and like just three is also like sometimes when you go in public spaces, being an outsider, like I have to think whether I can do it or not. Like for example, 2 days back, I went to Dam Square in Amsterdam with an artist and just thought that I will dance for an hour. And then between the police came and I really got afraid because, I have this document which they can anytime take away. While the other friend of mine was dancing, he was a European, and he said, don't worry, tell me the laws and rules and all. But, I really was thinking that whether I have the right to ask that question or not, because it's always that, you are at a different space and you have to behave in certain ways because of papers and all. So yeah, I think I share the feeling for sure.
I just want to add in, I definitely have felt that. Sort of when the notion of traveling is brought up, whether it's with friends or my girlfriend, I always instinctively always recognise that because I hold this Zimbabwean passport, I can't travel to a lot of places that my friends can easily travel to. So whether that's traveling to Europe or traveling to anywhere in the rest of the world, I sort of have to look at it through a different lens than maybe your peers or others will look at it. So instinctively, there's already like a blockade that I put up in my mind. I'm not sure about that and kind of like have to backtrack. And I definitely felt what Mandla, you felt, like that shame and you kind of like when people bring up sort of just traveling or wanting to do stuff and you kind of that embarrassment and that shame of kind of like having, you don't want to say like, guys, I'm going through this situation, oh, sorry, I can't do this. So you kind of just like to just swallow that and make up some really dumb excuse to sort of get out of that situation. But no, I completely understand the passport being sort of that first barrier that really kind of limits where you go and what you do in terms of movement.
Yeah. Great. Thank you very much. So perhaps we'll start to move on to the next one in the break, but it's sort of all relating to this, I suppose. I see this as a when we travel to new contexts and we go through the experiences that you are going through at the moment or that you have gone through already, we often face ourselves in limbo. And when I was looking at your artworks, there's a lot of, first of all, as we were saying earlier in the private chat, there's a lot of communality between the shared concepts between the artworks, and also aesthetically sometimes it's quite interesting to see the aesthetic narratives going through between them, which is really lovely. And it really speaks about a sense of communality, but also, I think, speaks a lot about the artworks in general in different ways, speak a lot about this kind of, not necessarily conflict, but just the position between experiences that have gone before, they merged in with the present and thinking about potential futures, right? And I found a lot of hope within them, which is really nice to see, because obviously they were built in a lot of struggle, I suppose, and struggle is also sometimes a motivation for, or gives us potential for hope. But the futures that we dreamed of are not necessarily the ones that we kind of now face, right? And on top of that, the cultural context where we existed before has impacted immensely in our understanding of the world and how we as artists respond to it as human beings or as artists. At the end of the day, art is anything but a response to the world around us. So with that in mind, thinking about this juxtaposition of the past, the present, and the future, and where we are now, and how we could potentially dream about futures, how have your experiences of travels and the immigration systems that you've gone through shaped your approach to art making and your understanding, your own understanding of your own future? Maybe we'll start with Mandla this time.
So I suppose not having traveled very much, I don't know, like I feel like I've ended up just with this weird thing where I rarely even leave the city. Oh, hi Morteza. Where I rarely even leave the city that I am in unless it's like for work or like a specific thing. And so like during lockdown, this whole thing of like you need to stay where you are, I'm like I literally just like stay within like 2 miles of wherever I am all the time, unless I literally have to go into another city or something, which is usually for some kind of work thing. And even holidays, like I never really like book time for like holidays or breaks. And I noticed that recently. I was like, I only book time off when it's like to rest, and even then it's to just like spend most of my time in my house and not so much about like, you know, people book time off work for like to go on holiday or to go somewhere else. And I feel like I've just sort of, I don't know, yeah, I feel like I have this fear of traveling and going far because yeah, not having a choice in where I can go, sort of limited to like England and Wales and Scotland, etc. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't really sure about that question because I was like, I don't know what traveling is. I don't even know what an airport looks like.
Yeah, maybe before we carry on, we just bring in Morteza in.
Yeah.
Is he just to join us? Hi, Morteza. Would you mind just introducing yourself a little bit, and maybe talking a little bit about a video that you've produced in the world, which is excellent, by the way. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. It is Morteza. I am originally from Afghanistan, but now I live in Rome. And I had a big problem today to connect myself, join the meeting with internet. I don't know why. Maybe I had the wrong link. Yes, but I prepared a video for the festival, for the live or online exhibition. The title is The Fall of Icarus. Maybe as you know, the Icarus Bruegel, the Belgian artist, Belgian painter, has many beautiful paintings, and one of these paintings is landscape with the fall of Icarus. And this painting inspired my video. And actually, last year I was in Greece, in Samos Island, which is the nearest island to the Asian coast. It's an island in Mediterranean Sea. In a hotspot for refugees. There I start to work with the people there in the hotspot, but it was a very difficult situation. I start to do a workshop with the people I met there to make videos and tell their stories. And it was very difficult, very difficult experience. Actually, I prepared a very good presentation, but I overcut everything. But it's okay. Yes, for the exhibition, in the end, I prepared this video, which is 30 minutes, I think, 30 minutes. It tells the story of a story without a protagonist. The story of this island, a remote island in the Mediterranean Sea. And yes, I was reading something today. Actually, I was reading something about from an Irish philosopher. His name is Edmund Birkin, something like this. I don't remember the name, but I'm very bad with names. But that experience in the island made me very sad, very sad and very powerless. I was reading this quote by this Irish philosopher today. He argues that this feeling is very wonderful and very important, to feeling powerless and to feel emptiness, because I think at least that the thought that we think we can change the world, we can make it a better place, is something maybe it's wrong, because this feeling emerges from a deep egoism and pride. And I think if we accept our powerlessness, we can contribute to make a world a different place, not a better place, but a different place from which is now. I'm sorry, maybe I finished my time.
No, it's very good. Thank you very much. It's very and to kind of know a little bit more the context behind the film. So thank you. Just to catch you up on where we were talking about kind of everyone's experiences of travel and how that might have impacted on your understanding of your own future, of your own potential futures, both as a personal level and as an artist, I suppose. So with that, maybe I'll reframe the question a little bit, just to kick us off a little bit again, which is, since you've traveled from another place to the way you are now, how has your art changed? And has it changed at all? And if it has changed, how did it change? Put it that way. Maybe we'll start with Pankaj on this one.
Thank you. Yes, I mean, at the moment, what I can say that, yes, it has changed. And the way it has changed, like when I was working in India, I was mostly working on issues which was not so personal maybe, but which was societal. And now when I'm here, like, most of the things which I'm working is also personal, really quite personal, for example. And that's also because of the context has changed. So one was because of that, but second is also, yes, it's like, everything had changed. And after the exposure, I didn't have the same exposure earlier. But here, one thing for sure, I can be for sure that things now. When I, like earlier when I was working, it was more social issues and societal issues, but I was not there myself. I was working on the issues. But here when I'm working, I'm creating a work, me, myself, my own history, my own family, my own background is there in the work. So that's one thing. Second thing, like still I'm not I couldn't become an artist, a European artist, because first this is my own feeling that my agencies are very different than artists here. Here artists are mostly working with funding agencies and theaters, and while all of my life I've been working through like friends, communities and all, and that so it's, while I'm still in between. I couldn't become an institutional artist which only work with institution, and yeah, I don't know, but for sure the issues based, like it's more personal works now, more personal work that has changed.
Is that what you think is is that what you would think as a European artist? Is that such a thing as a European artist?
Of course, I mean, I will be honest. Here, I see people are just like, it's a bad word, but it's like, like people are not able to do anything without institutional support. While all of our life we were creating work without institutional support. And my point is, when you are working under an institution, then institution decide what you will create. And then you cannot be independent at all, even when you claim independency. And that's why that doesn't mean that I say that, we should not take support from institution, or institution should not be there to support. But in that context, lot of time I see that, like you propose a work, and if you don't get that, somebody say that, hey, you are getting money and this work is valuable, you are not creating the work, you are leaving the work, But for example, the art of walking, when we started, I mean, luckily that we found you all, lovely people who believe in the work. But the first thing we said that even if we will not have a single euro, we are going to create the work, because that this is urgency, this is important for us, and not somebody else is going to decide whether the issue is important or not, or the work is important or not. We as artists have the right and will decide. So that's what I'm saying, and I really believe. And when I'm saying with full confidence what I mean, that here I feel that artists are only working when institutions want them to work, or the way institution want them to work, and that's there. It might be a bit harsh, but that's what I see. People are just chilling down. This is not bad, but like it's just, I don't know. So I couldn't still be the only thing issue based. I can say that it's more personal, and I mean, it's not, the work and life is not different here for me.
Okay. What about you, Batul? Have you has the way you make work, or the way you see work, your own work, your own practice changed? And are you a European artist?
No, I'm not. It has changed. It has changed many times. When I start to move away from my own country, from Turkey, I actually start to have more opportunities to make art. So in that sense, when I compare the past, present, and the future, I think I have a couple of different narratives. Like the first narrative is, I move away, I have more opportunities, I explore new things, and I really enjoy it, and I want to talk about this also to people I left behind. In a way, kind of like I want to carry that new experience back to where I come from. And then comes the other narrative, where I build a life here, I make new friends, I live here, and then people know me living here, not me coming from Turkey. And there are situations in which I want to tell them the things that have happened back at home, kind of like trying to take them and move them back with me. So there's kind of an interrelated narratives. So I would say that it has changed a couple of times, and I guess eventually each time the place that I lived in determined the things that I've done, the artistic opportunities, let's say, that I have. It started with towards more positive, maybe I have more opportunities, but then I discovered how restricted I was within those opportunities. And eventually I kind of saw that the things that I've been doing, like the works that I've done so far until this year, I kind of didn't have full control over them, because they were still determined by the fact that me, as a non-European living in the UK, could apply to certain fundings, could apply to certain opportunities, therefore could make art. And I guess with the work here, with my work that I've done for this festival, for the first time, I wanted to take that control back and kind of also introduce this notion of celebration and hope as well. Kind of like bending all those narratives together and actually saying like, yes, this time I'm taking control over my work, and I'm actually bringing all those people from those different countries that I've lived in together in this like the narrative, which is not linear, which means it's not literally for one of those groups that I shared something with, but it's for all. And of course, they will need to work around them kind of to make sense of it. And I guess that's kind of just bringing this new experience also for people to kind of watch it and think through it and join me in one bit of that journey.
Nice. Thank you so much. That was really great. Can I bring Taff in, please, and see what how you respond to that sort of provocation? How has your understanding of yourself and your work changed since your journeys?
It's definitely comes in parts, and I think you can definitely see that from the original play that we did, where we began, and with the film that we've done, Where We Are, and it kind of in my head I see it as three parts. So you start off with hopelessness, being sent a letter to say that you're going to be deported as a young person, being sent something like that when my family, my future, my life was here, and having everything stripped away from me to the point where I was just a shell of a person. And I had no, like we discussed earlier, no freedom, no movement. My identity had been stripped from me. Just me as a person, I was non-existent. So you start off with hopelessness, and then that develops into, this limbo where I was stuck for 3 years. I lost 3 years of my life, where I had to obviously wait to fight the Home Office to basically prove my right to remain in the UK. So you've got hopelessness and limbo, and obviously through that period, hopefully you can see it. You see it in the film where I'm constantly fighting, and something that my mum has always said to me is, everything happens for a reason, even if it's bad, these things happen for a reason. So to kind of put context behind that, I was studying drama and theatre arts, to obviously go into the arts world, and as a result of being sent that deportation letter, I had to stop. Well, I was kicked out of uni, but I had to obviously stop going to university. To where in that process of being in limbo, we found each other, SBC, where we found a space obviously here, and we spoke, and I told them my story, and they saw a way that they could give me a platform to tell my story and showcase what had happened to me. So we go from hopelessness, limbo, to then obviously the present and the future, and that's what I said, that everything happens for a reason. But with my sort of ideology, I've always tried to be positive, and I've always tried to, it's difficult because you want to, especially myself, I didn't want to let this define me. I didn't want to let this stop me. I didn't want to let this literally destroy my life. And you said a quote very early on about hopelessness and how the system designs hopelessness, and the system that is a hostile environment created hopelessness for me. But through the people around me and the platform that was given to me by SBC, it really propelled me in a direction in which I found myself now doing what I wanted to do, but also telling personal stories and creating my own work alongside some really incredible people. And also, it's not just flippant work; it's work that has a purpose, it has a meaning, stories that need to be told. And my story isn't crazy; it's one that is happening to a lot of other people in this country, and I'm just grateful that I've been given a platform to share my story. But obviously, my story's ever evolving and it's still going. I mean, you know, today so if you haven't seen the film, I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm obviously still in a state of limbo, and part of that is because of COVID and how the government operates immigration and everything around that. So I'm still in this state of limbo, but I'm still optimistic, and my life has progressed, my life has moved forward. So it's ever changing, and I think the narrative and the stories that I will tell will continuously change depending on where my story and my life sort of progresses. But you know, we stick it to the man and we keep fighting and telling this narrative.
I think also just to add to that, when we met Taf, we were meeting an activist, we were meeting an artist who was not going to let this happen to other people. He really wanted to use his story and experience to let people know, which is what our company is interested in doing. But you'll hear, even now, like Taf says, I was really lucky to get this platform. And that's not true. We didn't give you a platform, you took it, you should have it. And there's still this feeling of being grateful for doing incredibly important work that we need. And that system continuously makes people feel grateful for having a millisecond of space or shame for something that's done externally. And yeah, as someone that just gets to collaborate, it's mind-blowing that you have to watch this happen.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I totally agree with everything you said about the system, and the finding of hope in community, I suppose, that you found, which is great. Can I bring in Bazad, please, into this and just get your take on this, specifically because you also talking about like this situation of suspense and sort of the art of promising that you kind of revolve your film around or kind of utilize as a motive for your film. And I wanted to kind of just with that frame ask how you're responding to this question of how much is your travels and your understanding of your past, present, and future has changed since your travels.
Yeah, so that's actually on a different level. And if you say like artistic level, so I have totally positive experience. And if you say that as a personal level, so I have different experience, that's another story. But I think your question was more artistic. So as artistic, I have surely, I am so free here. I don't have control from a community or politics or government. I can do what I want. I can speak about different topics. So in my country, I couldn't. That's doing even if not political. If you have the control for the community, you have really many topics you cannot speak about. That's as artist. And here I can do that everything. So and even as funding, it's here more free, and you have more possibility doing many stuff. And so I have another experience. I think what my college here says. So they say different experience. My experience will be good. And yeah, it's my master and what I'm doing now for my PhD. So totally, I have good experience. As personal, sure, I have different experience because I came here not as student. I came here as refugee. So that was totally different because then I have limited for the freedom. I cannot move everywhere. I have with definitions myself from government or from countries or political here as with this small pass what I have. So when I move and I make the control in some borders, so yeah, I'm feeling immediately what's meaning as refugee. And I don't know if I can take it that's like discrimination or what you can't say that's dependent how the people dealing with me about that in which situation. But yeah, that's true, and I should accept it. That's here. So I try making difference between my personal identity and my art, not mix it too much to be more clear. Yeah.
Lovely. And what about you, Morteza? Before you leave. Is he gone? Oh no, he's gone. Okay, so well, hopefully he'll be able to join us in a second, again. But I'm also very hyper aware of time. Damn it! But before we go, I just wanted to kind of ask a kind of succinct question, which is as migrants and particularly people who are going through asylum-seeking processes, or migrants who are traveling to new countries, people of color, LGBTQ plus communities, working class, disabled communities have traditionally found ourselves very isolated from society, either systemically or on a personal level. And I kind of just wanted you to give us a couple of sentences each about how you think the current pandemic has either enforced this or not at all on a personal level for you. Who would like to start first? Go on, Tav.
I think on a personal level for me, in terms of migration and being a migrant and someone who's grown up in the UK, but obviously understanding my identity and coming from another country, it's always definitely I've seen it really heightened during COVID, the way that the government were trying to help certain organisations, people, groups of people, but how migrants and other sects of society were just being left behind. And there was just like no conversation, whether it was mainstream media or through the government themselves. There was just nothing being said, and these people being left behind. And obviously in an industry that we're in as well, the arts, and how that's just been sacrificed, and no one's talking about that. And we're seeing, especially in the UK, I can only speak for the UK, how devastating that impact is, because if it is where we see these people, these groups, and these industries being left behind, what does the future hold? It was bad enough before, especially with migration and migrants and the hostile environment. What does that future hold? If we're going into a world where we were already struggling as it was, now we're struggling with COVID on top of that, and with the limitations that there are in terms of government support and government funding and all of that, what world are we going into? But on a positive note, we'll stick it to them and we'll keep fighting. Regardless of whatever happens, we'll keep fighting.
Exactly. Well, just so everyone know at home and here, if people who are not in the UK at the moment, the hostile environment is a series of legislations and series of government initiatives that were put in place during Theresa May's tenure as Home Secretary, and continues to operate today to enforce a hostile environment for migrants in the UK to feel so unwelcome that they will go home themselves. And that has tremendous consequences on people living here who don't have a right to citizenship straight away. On a final note, I think it would be nice, otherwise Dan will kill me. Can we just go one by one and give sort of our hopes for possible futures, either right now or during this pandemic? And I would like to hear from everyone, if that's okay. And Morteza, I know you just joined, but basically we're just going to go around to say goodbye and give our hopes for the future to all those at home and each other, if that's okay. And we'll start with, maybe we'll start with Bazad.
Yeah, I hope we broken this distances what we get now between humanity and between people. So distance it will be. I hope that's coming close and close, and we can hack each other and as brothers and sisters. So that's important for me as human. So that's my hope going.
Thank you very much. Maybe we'll go Mandla. You're muted. I'm muted.
Oh God.
Yeah.
I'm unmuted. So I guess, I don't know, for me, a lot of my work recently has been about understanding the past, and I guess trying to make sure that the same things that have happened before don't happen again, which is a really big ask for history and humanity. But yeah, I think, looking at what's happened and having a kind of compassionate and empathetic understanding of the things that happened before us in order to move forward and maybe not make the same mistakes that we've been making over and over again would be
Thank
great.
you very much. Batul?
Yeah, similar to Mandla, I think learning from the mistakes that are already done and not repeat them, but also kind of initiate more artistic or creative or cultural collaborations between different people living in completely different places, or arts for social change. In short, I think that's my hope for the future. That through more cultural collaborations, we will have more space to discuss and learn and not to repeat the
Morteza,
mistakes.
what's your hopes for the future?
Yes, I don't have any hope. I don't have a good relationship with this world, and I always, my friends associated me to cynical world, but I don't have any hope, and I hope you have some hope for me too.
We sure will. Thank you very much. And can I bring Taf in, please?
I think for me, the ideal scenario for the future is a world where we have space to communicate with respect, compassion, and empathy, and also a space where we listen to each other. Because I think at the moment we're seeing a world where we're just shouting and no one's truly listening. I think the key thing is to just listen and to hear each other, and hopefully that will take us in the right direction.
Thank you very much. Pankaj?
Yeah, even being in dark, I'm very hopeful. Okay, so because I was not aware that in this building at 10 o'clock they switch off the light. Anyway, so what I'm saying that this was no, I'm very hopeful for the future, and I'm not hopeful I'm going to make it. We all are going to make it happen, and the future which I dream is like at least I'm the first person in my family who could travel in a flight, and I really want that other member of my village can see the world. That's my hope, and I'm not hoping I'm going to make it happen. That's what I believe in, and we are going to make it happen. Yeah, but at a larger level, I really feel that if we can create a world where anybody can just go anywhere to meet like-minded people and work with them, that's what future I imagine we could create.
Thank you so much, everyone. It's time to wrap up, but thank you everyone for your excellent contributions to this discussion. For me, I wish we would have done this live, and maybe one day hopefully we'll be able to, with a glass of wine and into the night. As a final note, I would like to point to the Journeys Festival website to everyone at home and highlight that the works are now available for free online. So please visit the website, get a cup of tea or a strong shot of vodka, whatever you fancy, and go along with these amazing artists on their journey. Do check out the rest of the festival as well at www.journeysfestival.co.uk and follow them on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at JourneysFest. Thank you again. It's been an absolute pleasure. Good night.
Thank you, Xavier.
Thank you.
Thank you.